بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. In our study of Unit 3, we talked about the immateriality of human soul. We said human soul or spirit or ruh is immaterial. And we mentioned some arguments for that. The very last thing we talked about was about dreams and how we can have true dreams. And we try to explain that. There is also something that we mentioned, and I want to give you a very interesting story about it, and that's about voluntary death. As you remember, we said there is possibility of some people having control over their death. So they can decide to leave their body. And when you look at the body, you think the body is dead because there is no relation with the soul. But they can come back and resume their normal activities. There are many stories about this, but I very much like this story because it's about a person who is very well known and very respected contemporary scholar, Hakim Haydaji. Hakim means here philosopher, and he was from the city of Haydaj. Haydaj is a city in Iran between Qazvin and Zanjan. There is a city called Haydaj, and it's a very beautiful city. I've been there. So Hakim Haydaji used to stay in the school, in madrasa. He was not married, and he used to stay in what we call hujra, in a room in the madrasa. And in his teaching of philosophy, he believed that it's impossible to have voluntary death. So he used to teach students, talabah, that there is no such a thing as voluntary death. Because, for example, one argument that they have is when the soul reaches the point that can survive without reliance on body, then to go back is not possible, because it means that when potentiality becomes actuality, then has to go backward, and this is not possible. So they had arguments. One night, and I am reading the story exactly from the book. It's in Farsi, I'm translating for you. One night when he was in his own room in madrasa, after Salatul Isha, he was sitting on his prayer mat and was doing ta'qibat. Then an old man who looked like someone coming from village, peasant, came and said salam and put his stick somewhere in the room of the Hakim and said, Janab Akhund, tu che kar dari be in karha? Oh, Akhund, a scholar, what do you have to do with these issues? Hakim said, which issues? He said, about voluntary death. Why you deny voluntary death? This is not relevant to you. Hakim was surprised, this man from village, said, I am philosopher, I have a student circle, He said, this is our responsibility. We study, we teach, we have spent our life on these issues. We don't say something without studies. So that old man said, you don't believe in voluntary death? Hakim said, no. So he lied back on the floor and said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and died. And when Hakim looked at his body, it was someone who has died for years. So he was very disturbed, and he said, what calamity has come tonight to us? This man has died here. And the police think that this talaba have brought some stranger and killed him here in the school. And we are going to have headache. So he called the students because he was a teacher, but they were students. So he called them, and then they decided to bring a coffin and put him there in the prayer place till morning to find a solution. So it says that when they were going to start to implement this plan, the old man sat and said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and looked at the Hakim and smiled and said, now, did you believe? Hakim said, yes, by Allah I believed, but you killed me. So then that man said, Agha Jan, tanha be dars khandan nist. It's not just a matter of studying. If you want to understand these things, you need ibadat. You need salatul layl. It's not just taking notes, teaching, writing. No. So from the same night, Hakim changed his lifestyle. In the past, he was mostly just teaching and studying and writing, but now divided his time into teaching and studying and doing ibadah and contemplation. And it is said that he put in his will, in his wasiyah, and this is exactly his wasiyah. He says, I request my friends, when I die, please don't put my imama on my tabut, on my coffin. Normally, they put. There is no need to cry. There is no need to trouble people to have majlis for me. My life is finished and my action has ended. You must be happy because I am released from this prison. And if any of my friends are sad, they should know that they will soon join me and we will meet each other. I wish I had money to give to my friends to have a feast when I die, because this is the night of my visal, meeting my beloved. So this was his wasiyah. And the students in this madrasa was called Madrasiyya Muniriyya. In that madrasa they say, in the last night, Hakim was very special. This last night, he was spending more time with the talaba, giving them advice, but also joking, but giving them some moral advice. And we were surprised, why tonight he's very happy and very jolly. So after Salatul Fajr, he went to his room and never came out. And he died. So this shows that it's possible. We say in philosophy, adallu dalilan ala imkan al-shay wuqu'uhu. The best proof for possibility of something is if it happens. Yeah, someone says, why you say this is possible? I say, look, it has happened. I don't need to argue for possibility when we see it's already there. So, it's possible to have voluntary death, and this shows that soul is different from body, and our reality is made by our soul, by our spirit. For a period of time, the soul needs a body. When you are in your physical life, you need your body. Without your body, you cannot understand, you cannot move things, you cannot do anything. I don't know if you have thought about this issue. Why I cannot see something which is behind me? If soul has no direction and no place, so there is no difference between something before me or behind me. Why I cannot see something which is behind me? Because although soul has no direction and no space, but soul functions through body. Yeah? And when my body has limits, it would limit understanding of my soul as long as my soul depends on my body. Or why I am not aware of what is happening in another room, another, for example, place, although soul has no place, because my soul knows about this world through my body. Or why I cannot move something which is in the other side of the room, although my soul cannot be said it's here, because my soul needs my hand to move things. Okay? So, this is a period that the soul has to go through it. But then, the soul can reach a point that can become independent from body. And it can happen even in this life. We can be still alive, but know things which are hidden to our body, but not hidden to our soul. So you can see something which is happening behind you, or something which is another place. Or you can be here and move something in another place. This is possible. And if this doesn't happen when we are alive, because we haven't trained our soul and we haven't, purified our soul, after we die, this happens. After you die, your soul would not need this body, although would need another body, which is different type of body, would not need this body. So many of limitations go away. A person who dies may know many, many things that people who are alive don't know. So, this shows that our reality is much greater than this small physical body that we have. Now, in addition to these arguments, we have some intellectual or rational arguments in the book. The first argument is based on our personality, on our character remaining the same despite passage of time and changes in our body. When you are a child or you are a young person or old person, your body goes through lots of changes. Sometimes if you have not seen someone for many years, you may not even notice that this is the same person. Yeah, some people change a lot. But it's the same person. You don't say, this is a different person. If someone has done a crime 50 years ago, 60 years ago, and now they have found him somewhere, he was hidden, for example. They don't say, this is not the same person, this is not the criminal, it's a new person. No, they say this is the same person. Because although his body has changed, even if he has done plastic surgery, even if he has changed his organ, they say this is the same person. Or if someone has given a service, was a hero, and now they want to praise him, so they say this is the same person. So, although our body can go through changes, but the personality, the identity remains intact. Another thing is the difference between our identity or personality and our body in being subject to division. Our body, because it's a physical object, can be divided. You can divide body. Say, for example, top of it, the bottom of it, right side, left side. You can divide. Even if you don't divide it physically, at least in your mind, you can always consider this part, that part of body. Or for example, if God forbid someone has accident, maybe he loses his hand, maybe he loses his leg. So you may lose part of your body. But do you think you would lose part of your identity? So for example, if you lose your leg, 20% of your personality has gone. Or your personality is something which is not compound, is not possible to be divided. It's simple, it's basit, as we say. Yeah? What you understand as me doesn't have right side, left side, top of it, middle of it, bottom of it. Although body has this. Is it clear? So, this shows that we are different from body. Although body is always with us, but we are different from this body. Another intellectual argument which is very important is about knowledge. Our knowledge is immaterial, first. And anything which has this quality, like knowledge, has to be immaterial. Knowledge is for the soul. So soul has to be immaterial. Why knowledge is immaterial? There are many arguments for that. For example, when you know something like, for example, a mountain, you know Everest, okay? Is your knowledge of Everest physical, material? In the sense that you have brought Everest to your mind? No. Your mind cannot contain Everest. Or have you brought the image of Everest into your mind? No. Some people say, maybe we can say we have microfilm. So we make it a small image and that image can go here. But the question is, your understanding of Everest is not a small piece of, for example, a stone. So even if you have microfilm, after that you have to magnify it so that you understand the greatness of Everest. So you can understand Everest millions of times greater than your body. So it doesn't solve the problem if you say, maybe we use micro images. Because even micro images have to be magnified so that you can understand its greatness. So it shows that our knowledge is not through a picture or a film or a slide. What goes to our eyes and then through our eyes is, processed and goes to our brain. This is not knowledge. This is only part of it. Philosophers say that these are all preparations. At the end, what understands is not your brain, it's your spirit. But your spirit uses brain. But if your spirit, for example, is busy with something, even if brain and eyes all are working, you don't understand. Or when you taste, even if everything is all right, your tongue, your brain, everything all right, but for example, you are very busy thinking about something, you don't understand the taste of the food. Pleasure, pain, sometimes someone is so busy that if you put a needle, maybe he doesn't understand. At least we know the example of Amir al-Mu'minin salam, that when he was in Salat, he was so much thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that when they brought out the spear, whatever it was, the arrow, he didn't notice. Why? Not because his skin was not working or nervous system was not working or brain was not working. No, they were working properly. But at the end, the one who is responsible for sensation, for understanding, is the spirit. And if the spirit is fully occupied with something else, may not pay attention to this. So, our knowledge is immaterial because our knowledge can be greater than our body. What we know can be greater. Our knowledge is not possible to be divided while our body can be divided. Our knowledge is not changeable although our body is changeable. Our knowledge can be about things which are not existing outside, like knowledge of the universal thing, knowledge about things which are negational, as we call ma'doom. So there are many different arguments that Muslim philosophers have mentioned to prove that knowledge is not material. And therefore, soul, which is responsible for knowledge, also has to be immaterial. Because something immaterial cannot be a property of something which is material. So, these complete our discussion about immateriality of the soul. If you are interested, also there is a chapter in self-knowledge about this issue. The next topic is evolution. The theory of evolution is something that we have to discuss here because we are talking in this unit about human beings. And it's very important for us to know what is our origin. In one sense, our origin is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is our creator. But in the material sense, what is our origin? So the one who gives existence to us, who creates us, is Allah. Okay? But what material has been used to create us? And what process we have been through so that we are today what we are? One theory which is very famous is the theory of evolution. The first person on record who suggested this is Charles Darwin. But then after him, other people, took over and they carried on this. And although some people present it as something which is 100% scientific and proved, the reality is that it's not 100% scientific and proved. It's a theory, it's a hypothesis that has some evidence in favor of it, but also some evidence against it. And even today, there are many, many scientists in the world who are called creationists, and they are against the idea of evolution. The idea of evolution, as Darwin put forward, was not something against God. Darwin himself was a believer. He was a Christian. He was a believer. He didn't develop this as an argument against God, but then some people thought this can be an argument against God because of two reasons. One is because they thought this is against some scriptures, some holy books. They thought in some holy books, as we will explain, the idea is that Adam and Eve were created directly by God. And this proves, therefore, if we accept this theory, we have to reject the scripture and religion. Another reason was they thought if we accept evolution, then we would not be able to argue for the existence of God from design. You remember we said one of the arguments for the existence of God is the argument from design, Burhan al-Naql. Because there is order and complexity and purpose, then we said there must be designer. But they thought if we accept an evolutionary process, we don't need to have a designer. It can be just by chance, but by chance has evolved and has become what it is. Our answer is as follows. First, we have no problem with this theory when it comes to our theology or a scripture. So we don't need to prove Darwin wrong so that we are right. Yeah? So even if you believe that there has been evolution and first there was one type of living being and little by little it grew into different types and we were, for example, from some apes and then gradually we became human beings. Even if you accept this, it's not posing any threat to us. Why? Because what is important is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives existence, as we said in the cosmological argument or in the Burhan Fitrat. And when he gives existence, it doesn't matter to us how he has created us. Has he created us as we are, or he has created an evolutionary process and then as a result of that we are what we are? What's important? He has created this. So you can create something directly or you can create a system that evolves. Even Ayatollah Mutahari says, if we accept this, suppose we accept this, it's a good case for argument from design. Because we can say, why out of many probabilities that could have led to destruction of all of us, why we have always come forward and we have become so sophisticated like human beings. There could have been lots of other possibilities and we could have been ended either in some lower types of animals or perish totally. I will stop for question later if you don't mind. So, this is one point. For us to believe in evolution or not to believe in evolution is not an issue. In both cases, as we said, we need a creator. Argument of wujub wa imkan, cosmological argument, is the same. Even argument from design is the same. So, this is one point. When it comes to the scripture, we have some mufassirin, some ulama, who have said that the Quranic verses about creation of human beings can be interpreted in the way that is compatible with evolution. Ayatollah Meshkini rahmatullah alayh, one of our greatest scholars who passed away a few years ago, he has a book, Evolution in the Quran. And he has tried to show that these verses can be understood in the way that is compatible with evolution. And there are also some other books, some written by some Muslim scientists, but this is important because mentioned by one, written by great scholar. So the Quranic scripture is possible to be understood in the light of or line of evolution. But having said that we don't have any issue with evolution, we want to add that scientifically there are great doubts about this. And in the book you find there is a reference to some research done in University of Michigan about this issue. For example, one problem with the idea of evolution is that they say we and monkeys and apes, we all have one common ancestor. And through genetic, modifications, we have become human beings. We have become more advanced and more developed. But these scientists have studied and examined our DNA and DNA of apes and compared our DNA and DNA of apes to those common ancestors. And what they have actually found is that those apes have gone through more changes than us. So in the book it says those apes have 233 modifications, while human beings have had only 145 modifications. So it means that apes are more advanced than us. If we have the same, ancestor, which was 6 million years ago, they say. So we should become ape at the end, not that ape has become like us. Another problem is Darwin had the idea that every species, every type becomes another one. And he said, if we have time, we will find fossils for all different types and all the things in between. But still today, scientists have not been able to find fossils for those transient types. Okay? So this shows that there is no evidence, enough evidence to suggest that every living being is a result of process of evolution. We don't have any issue with, for example, human beings themselves evolving, going through changes. Monkeys going through changes. But to prove that monkeys have become human beings and they have gone through different stages of change, it's not so far, completed. And you have to have then fossils of all these animals who have come in between. This has not happened. Plus, suppose even human beings are a result of evolution. It's not a problem because our hadith says before Adam there were many other Adams. There were thousands of Adams before this Adam. Maybe they were a result of evolution. But this line of human beings, which starts with Adam and Eve, can be created directly. Darwin cannot prove that there is no possibility of direct creation. He can say that there was such process. Okay, we don't have any problem. But this line can start with Adam and Eve. And I personally prefer the idea of those scholars who say that the Quran shows that this, at least this line, is not a result of evolution. And I quote 2 verses of the Quran. One is the verse which says, الذي بدأ خلق الإنسان من طين ثم جعل نسله من سلالة من ماء مهين. Allah is the one who created man, started the creation of man first from clay, Bada, it means started. خلق الإنسان, creation of man, من طين, from clay. But then made the progeny of man from sperm. So, Adam was not son of a father and mother, was not from, fertilization, but from Adam and Eve onwards, yes. Another ayah which is very clear, maybe even clearer, is the ayah about Isa and Adam alayhim as-salam. Some people, Christians, ask Rasulullah that if Jesus was not son of God, then who was his father? It's a question. If he's not son of God, who is his father? Every person should have mother and father. Then this ayah was revealed. إِنَّ مَثَلَ عِيسَى عِنْدَ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ آدَمَ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ. The example of Jesus is like the example of Adam. If Jesus had no father, Adam had no father and mother. خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ. God created him from clay. If Adam had father and mother, this ayah then would not be a good response. Because they could have said, Adam has a father, but for example, na'udhu billah, a monkey. Or a simple human being. This ayah can only work if Adam had no father and no mother absolutely. خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ. Not that خَلَقَهُ from parents and the parents were, eating vegetables and then vegetables come from soil. خَلَقَهُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ shows that it was direct. Is it clear? So, I personally believe that the Quran is clear that at least Adam and Eve and then all human beings that exist today, we are all directly created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the clay. Before this Adam could be many other Adams. Maybe they were created directly, maybe they were a result of evolution. It's not important. So, evolution, if it is accepted, it's not a problem. It can be actually used as a way of showing that there is a process of evolution, which is part of the design of God. And if it is not accepted, also it's not a problem. So we are very relaxed when it comes to evolution. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen.